So welcome back guys to another video, and throughout the years I'm sure all of us have played games. We've played the good, the bad, the ugly, but we've also played some games that just made us feel good, and we've accomplished certain things with these games that made us really enjoy the hobby. So what I'm going to do for this video is I want to talk about some of my favorite gaming achievements. Now the first game I want to talk about, I have so many memories with. I mean, this game is just full of nostalgia. And I'm talking about Super Mario Bros. 3. Now, not only was this the first NES game I ever owned, but it was also the first NES game I've ever beaten. And man, I remember when I was a kid with my sister and all of her friends, and we were sitting there in front of like a 15-inch CRT television, passing the controllers around like it was a moment of Cheech and Chong, and having a great, fantastic time. And I remember when I finally got to that last castle and defeated Bowser, and just the momentum that and the rush that I got from that, and all my sister's friends being like, oh my god, he just beat Super Mario Bros. 3. I mean, this was like weeks in the making. This was something that we were just like chipping away every chance we got. That was a great moment. That was probably when I was like, man, I love video games. And 25 years later, I am still just as much involved in the hobby as I was back then. Now, the next game I want to talk about, it's probably one of my favorite RPGs of all time. And honestly, the last battle wasn't that bad compared to a side quest that you could actually do in this game that makes it a lot easier. And what game am I talking about? I'm talking about Final Fantasy VII. And yeah, the One-Winged Angel Sephiroth wasn't that hard if you had the Knights of the Realm summoned, but to get that material was just a little bit cumbersome, because you had to battle some evil bosses that were not even in the Japanese version, which is weird. Usually it's the other way around. But I'm talking about the Emerald and Ruby weapons. And I never actually defeated the Ruby weapon, but I did defeat the Emerald weapon with my trusty Final Fantasy VII strategy guide. And man, I'm telling you, this is such a hard boss battle. I think the hardest thing about it is the fact that it does have a time limit. It has like 30 minutes, and this guy, he like hits you one time and it's game over. And luckily when I had the strategy guide, I looked up how to find some underwater materia that kind of did something about the time limit. Totally took it away, so you were able to breathe underwater, which made it a little bit easier, but it was still a very hard boss battle. And I remember my friend beat the Emerald boss before I did, and he was so vague about how he did it. He was kind of an asshole about it. I'm like, Dan, how'd you do this? He's like, oh, I just grinded and stuff. But he didn't even tell me about the materia. It wasn't until I got the strategy guide that I finally figured it out, and to this day, that's still one of the hardest boss battles I've ever had. Now, my next accomplishment isn't necessarily a boss battle. It was more like a completion. I was finished with it, and I was happy with it. And I am talking about Pokemon Red and Blue, when I got all 150 Pokemon. Now, I almost want to make a video talking about my memories of playing Pokemon, because I have a lot of different stories. But I remember getting Pokemon Red, and Nintendo was really smart in marketing, in the sense that Pokemon Red and Blue had different Pokemon, and you had to trade them, and it was so much of a social experiment. Because I'm not going to be the first one. I know I'm not going to be the first one to say this, but there were times that there were kids in my classroom or kids in my school that I didn't really talk to, I wasn't friends with, but maybe they had Pokemon Blue, maybe they had Pokemon that I was looking for, so I would start hanging out with them and start talking with them, and we would trade Pokemon. And here's another thing, and tell me if you guys notice this too. It was one of those things like the freaking Game Boy Link cable. It always seemed like the kid that was like the biggest prick had the Game Boy Link cable, so you had to become friends with him in some way too. I don't know, man, maybe it was just my school or something, but it seemed like the kid that always had everything, that was kind of a dick, had the Game Boy Link cable. So you had to sit there and become friends with these people and talk to this guy that wasn't the nicest person, just so you could get all the Pokemon. I mean, it's so funny, but I finally got it. I got all 150, and I was really, really happy about that. Now, of course, guys, my favorite series of all time is Castlevania, but one of the hardest Castlevania boss battles I ever had was at the very end of Castlevania Dracula X on the Super Nintendo. Holy shit. This is such a hard battle for me because not only were you battling Dracula, but you were also battling Dracula on little platforms, so you had to be very precise and have, you know, a very keen eye on your timing with the fireballs that he would shoot out and jumping from pillar to pillar, because one false move and it was game over. Because, you know, in those Castlevania games you couldn't control yourself in mid-jump, so if you got hit, you got knocked back, and 9 times out of 10 you fell through the pillar to begin with. So yeah, I remember when I finally beat him in his first form, and I was like, yeah. Then he went in his second form, like, shit. But yeah, I finally defeated Dracula in Dracula X, and man, I'm telling you, out of all the Castlevanias, that is one boss battle that just makes me want to pull my hair out. And the last gaming accomplishment I wanted to talk about is a level. This level here, a lot of people talk about it. It's from the NES version of Battletoads, and it's stage 3 on that little air bike. And man, I'm telling you, I remember running this game, and at that time, the game was so hard that I like regretted the fact that I rented this game. I was like, what was I thinking? Because it was so tough. And I remember, you know, it took me a couple times. It took me a couple of tries from renting the game. I think I rented it like 3 or 4 times. I couldn't put it down. And I finally beat that level. And you know, honestly, the level is very broken. I admit that it's really, really hard, but it's not impossible. The main thing is to memorize. I mean, that's something that we don't really see in games anymore. We don't really notice time signatures and stuff like that. I mean, games are not like that unless you're playing like, you know, Bloodborne or Dark Souls, and that's probably why I like those games so much, because they make me go back to the good old, you know, 16, 8-bit days of gaming. And yeah, I finally beat that level. I still haven't beaten Battletoads. I've never beaten it, but I did beat that level, and that's good enough for me. So anyway, guys, that is some of my favorite gaming accomplishments and achievements. And what I want you guys to do is leave a comment below. Tell me some moments that you beat a game, or maybe you had some sort of gaming memory that just made you feel so great and made you feel like you did something useful. I would love to hear from you guys. But anyway, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and as always, happy gaming.